Okay, hi y'all, and welcome back. Last video I touched base on that National Missing and Exploited Children had found us. Romney and National Missing and Exploited Children said that there was abuse. Um, Officer Derby and the other city officials in Pittsfield at that time told me they were going to help me. My counselor at the Elizabeth Freeman Center said that what she was going to do and how everybody in the community had my back, how the schools had my back, that I was a good mom and a good person of the community. What they did not tell me is that there was already a writ of arrest registered with the state of Massachusetts. I had no idea. My intuition and a very good friend of mine advised me that something wasn't right there, so I withdrew. That was just plain intuition, plain luck. I found out afterwards, getting the paperwork and seeing that there was already a writ of arrest issued for me for the state of Massachusetts, in the state of Massachusetts for Alabama, even before I walked into the courtroom and was told to give the children back. So had I have given the children back that day, I would have been arrested and sent to Alabama, where there is a sentence to be held with no end date. The police told me they were going to kill me, and other awful, terrible things that happened. And the divorce happened in fraud, and they refused to let me appeal it. They also refused to help me get a lawyer, stating that Shayla Shanna paid for his lawyer, I have to pay for mine, but I left the home in a domestic violence situation because he threw Shivani across the room. He was going to punch my baby, but he threw her. And I was unknown that the divorce even happened. They refused to let me appeal any of the divorce. And the safety precautions in order for me to return with the case to Alabama by Judge Peter Bradstreet of New York were denied to me. Child Protective Services denied to open a case and look into my claims of abuse. The guardian ad litem, Miss Pogue, refused to talk to the children and said that she was only put on the case to satisfy New York, and she had done what she was asked to do at this time. So now I'm going to get into the part where I leave the courtroom after being told to give back the kids in a 5-minute court. You can get the transcripts of that. I was told to shut up. My word was incredible. I was not allowed to enter any paperwork. I was not allowed a soft transfer after the children had been missing with me for over 2 years. They were afraid to go back. They did not want to go back. So I go home and I tell my children what happened. I'm very open with my kids. I tell them everything. They know everything. And I said, what do you want mommy to do? Mommy can very well possibly go to jail. I love you, but this is your life. What do you want mommy to do? Sai looked at me and said, Mommy, don't give up. Don't do it. Let's run. Malia looked at me and said, Mommy, I don't want to go back there. And so I packed the children in the car. And away we went. I called people in New York. I also had a Justice for Children worker working on it with me at that time that was recommended by National Missing and Exploited Children. They got me a Justice for Children worker, and we were working on the safety of the kids. Pittsfield was telling us that we were safe and telling them that I was safe there, and they were going to help me to secure my safety there with the children and work on everything else afterwards. So I got in the car, and me and the kids got in the car, and we left. We left Ashton. He had some loose ends to tie up in Pittsfield. And we were driving. And I got to a place where I was really scared. I was really nervous. I didn't know what to do. So I turned around, and I went to a friend's house in Connecticut so that I can think things through. I was talking to my Justice for Children worker there in Texas. She was trying to see if I can get to Texas. They can help me, what to do in this situation. Now we're in an even worse situation when National Missing and Exploited Children at the time told us that we were going to be safe. Well, no, National Missing Children didn't tell us we were going to be safe. But they told us that they were working with us in order to secure the safety in this domestic violence center of me and the children at this time. And so I put the kids in the car. We go to a friend's house. Ashton meets us at the friend's house. I had got things set up where New York Child Protective Services, New York State, was going to take control of the children, not let him have the children until we could figure things out. Also, other people, Domestic Violence Center in New York was going to help us, this, that, and the other. So when Ashton arrived to my friend's house with our car, we had someone else's car at the time, and we traded out vehicles, and we got on the road. Shivani had to use the bathroom, and so I pull over. I called the police department. My friend comes up and she gives me the police's number and said, they're looking for you, this, that, and the other. And so I called the police officer. He did not tell me that there was a warrant. He did not tell me anything like that. He did not tell me to come back to Massachusetts. He said to me, we are worried about the kids' safety, and we need to have someone speak with the children. So I put the kids on speakerphone. They talk to the officer. Oh, we're fine. I tell them that I'm heading to New York. I tell them where I'm going, because I don't know. I didn't think that they were after me. I didn't think that anything bad. I didn't know that they had put out that I was a monster. I had guns and was unsafe for my children. After working with the police department and doing a Christmas party, which I totally took care of everything. The police department didn't put in a single cent, but they showed up and helped deliver the toys. After working with Officer Derby, I didn't think that they had painted me out to be a monster. I felt like they fully knew my situation and that I was going for help in New York. And I told them that I'm going for help in New York. I have it already set up. The kids are fine, and when I get to New York, the children will be in child protective custody. I let them speak to the children. He spoke to the children. The children told him they were absolutely fine. So I hang up the phone call. Shivani has to use the bathroom. So I'm driving and I pull over. I'm really scared, but I pull over and I stop at a gas station. And as I'm stopping at a gas station, I keep seeing a lot of police. A lot of police. And I'm nervous, but I'm not nervous. Kind of brush it out of my mind. It's not me they're looking for. It's just a lot of cops out today. So I pull over at the gas station and the police officer pulls in, and he says something to me or whatever. And I look at this officer, and I'm scared to death, but I'm like, I am not giving up my kids to be abused. I refuse to give them up to be abused. My babies told me to fight. My babies told me to run, and I was going to fight and run for my baby. So I stance off against the officer. Bad idea. But he tackles me to the ground, and we're fighting and we're struggling, and I wouldn't let him handcuff me. I thought that all the children were in the car. But at some point or another, Shivani runs, and she's missing. And Ashton comes around the corner, and he says, Mommy, Shivani's gone. And we're tussling, me and this officer's tussling on the ground. I immediately stop, put my hands out, and say, no, look, she's missing. You got to stop this right now. I don't care about anything else. Arrest me, but we've got to find her. And I'm looking at this expressway, and my heart is panicked because I'm like, oh my God, anything can happen to my little baby. She's only 5 years old at this time. She was terrified. She ran and hid. But this officer that tackled me to the ground and fought me ended up realizing that I was not a danger to my children, that I was a mother bear protecting my children at all costs. He then gets on his radio. He calls in his upper people, and he was really upset because he listened to Pittsfield authorities and treated me as if though I was a criminal. And he realized that I was not a criminal, but a protective mother who was afraid for her children, and that the fight that I gave him was out of fear. Well, the writ of arrest was for Alabama. The state troopers of Connecticut are awesome people. They looked at my case. They set up my paperwork for me. They told me everything that was wrong. They told me to file the charges of fraud, and told me what to say to the officers. When I got out of jail, they did a lot for me. They made a lot of phone calls. They were really upset that they had to do their job and hold me in custody when they could clearly see that there was definitely some abuse going on there and that something was wrong. They even have said that when I got out of jail, they pressed charges on me so that Alabama could not pick me up at that time. He pressed charges on me. He told me to trust him, and I did. He pressed charges on me so that I could be held in Connecticut and not sent back to Alabama. After reviewing my videos and my story and seeing all the paperwork that was just misconstrued, he told me that this should not be happening. You should not be going through this. They helped me out with the prison, going to prison. They asked that I be put on the medical ward in order to be safe in prison, because they felt that I would be a target in prison and may be harmed, or did not want me around other inmates. Then they dropped all the charges and let me go and sent me back to Pittsfield. And while in prison, I was in prison for several weeks now, York Federal State Prison, $100,000 bond. While in prison, I went through a very hard mental time. It was very disturbing. I went through hell and back emotionally, and it was pretty crazy. The kids would not get in the car with Shalish when the police and the state troopers, when they were taken from the state troopers barracks in Connecticut. The children would not get in the car with Shalish. So the Child Protective Services of Connecticut talked Machiavelli into getting into the car so that they can go back with the children. And, you know, the children have someone that they trust and are with them, because, like I told you before, Shalish never spent time with the children. He was never home with the children. This is their really first time him being a parent to them, and it's not going so well, but I'll get to that later on in the video. I've been told some things when I was able to talk to them that unnerved me, but I won't skip ahead. But anyway, this is the first time that he's ever parented the children. So the children were afraid to go. They talked Mackie into getting in the car. Mackie was put into the hatchback trunk of this vehicle in order to return to Alabama. Mackie, during this time, tells me that he's flashing the papers and the divorce papers in front of the children and him, laughing and saying how he won them in court, and just being very not loving, not caring. The children were upset to see their mom dragged away in handcuffs and put in jail and everything like that. He was uncaring about that. He laughed at him. He told Mackie that he had a gun and that he would kill me. Every time Mackie got out of the car, I'll let Mackie tell his story, but every time Mackie got out of the car, he felt like he was trying to leave him. He was taunting them. He tried to comfort his sisters and brothers, but he had enough of the taunting, and he wanted the car to stop. He knew that he felt like he had to stop this car. He had to stop this from happening. He had to protect himself and his brothers and sisters from the things that Shalish was saying in the car at the time. Something broke out. I'll let Mackie tell the story. I wasn't there. I was locked up and incarcerated. Something happens, and there's an argument. Shalish calls the police on Machiavelli, and Machiavelli's thrown in jail in Tennessee. Machiavelli tells me that he had no intentions of ever taking him all the way to Alabama, and that he was trying to get rid of him the whole trip, and also saying some evil, awful, ugly things to him and the children at this time. So Machiavelli, my 19-year-old son, he was 18 at the time, 17 or 18 at the time. He's in jail now in Tennessee. He's facing 6 years assault. I'm in prison in Connecticut, York Federal State Prison in Connecticut, facing a sentence in Alabama with no end date. He uses the system to abuse. This is his tactic. This is what he's done. And because we are people of color, we are automatically targeted by the justice system anyway. So it compounds things even worse and makes it very, very hard to get out of the system when you are a black person in the system. It is very hard to tell your story. It is very hard to be heard. You are automatically considered a criminal, whether you are a criminal or not, because it's based on your skin color and stereotypes. The justice system needs to be reformed. It really needs an overhaul. Machiavelli's in jail. I'm in jail. Ashton, who is just a young man, is trying to hold the family together. He is talking to me on the phone. He's talking to anybody he can get his hands on. He is talking to lawyers and everything else. Well, my case was dropped like they said they would. The police department, or the state troopers department of Connecticut, dropped my case, did exactly what they said they were going to do for me, had me sent back to Massachusetts where a bond was set. There was a bond hearing. I went to the bond hearing, incarcerated, and at the bond hearing, I'm standing there, and I'm in this little glass box to see the judge, and the district attorney stands up, and she says she's on drugs. I've never done drugs in my life. Only drug that I ever did or ever have done, and that's considered legal in some places, is marijuana. I smoke weed on occasion in legal states. Then she says she lives in Dower Square and is on drugs. Yes, I live in Dower Square, which is a housing complex. What does that have to do with anything? And no, I've never been on drugs in my life. So me living in Dower Square makes me a drug addict, and it's bad. So I need to be kept in prison because I live in Dower Square and I'm on drugs, which is a lie. My public defender at that time just stands there. He says nothing. He doesn't ask them to prove it. It was never proven. It can't be proven. I've never done drugs, except for marijuana, if you want to consider that a drug. But anyway, I'm like, wow. So my location plays a part in how much my bail is, and the fact that I'm on drugs. So, which is a lie. So my bail was set at the highest amount possible, $2,500. Lo and behold, thank God, taxes had just came back, and Ashton was able to get that money to bail me out. As I was set for bail, Mackey's charges were dropped, and he was set for release. So Ashton, by himself, well, not by himself, with his girlfriend, travels to Tennessee, picks up Mackey from jail, and then he turns around, comes, gets me, and bails me out of jail in Connecticut. So I'm going to cut this video here and explain to you what happened and what went on after I got out of jail. I will say this. When I was apprehended in Connecticut, and those wonderful state troopers helped me, told me what to do to get my children back, told me that this was wrong, and what to do when I got out, or when I got bailed out. Immediately what to do when I got bailed out, I did. I followed their instructions. But when I went to the Pittsville Police Department to file the fraud of the divorce, of the marriage and the divorce, they told me that there was nothing that they could do on a certificate of marriage that happened in India. Well, my question is this. If nothing can be done on a certificate of marriage that happened in India, how am I being held criminally responsible for not adhering to the divorce on a certificate of marriage that happened in India? If you can't prosecute against it, then why am I being prosecuted against it? If anybody has the answer to that question, please drop it in the comments below. I was released on bail, and the next part of my story, my children were taken. They were sadly taken by force, by physical force of the police department. The state troopers were not happy and are not happy. I've talked to them recently, and are not happy of having to do their job, having to go along with the lies when they clearly saw that what these people were saying against me is not the truth. They set up my paperwork, told me to go to Boston. But when I called up Boston to do this paperwork, Boston told me I have to go to my local authorities, which is the Pittsville Police Department. Going to the Pittsville Police Department, they told me that they cannot do anything. I filed it many, many times. They refused to do it. I kept going in there because the state troopers of Connecticut kept telling me, you have to do this. They have to do this. I would go in there, and they told me that they can't do it, they won't do it, and wouldn't do it. But I'm going to cut this video here, and then I'm going to get into a bit of the things that I did in Pittsfield, Massachusetts after being released to prove myself out of these lies, to get something done and to find my children and get them back, which did not turn out at all did not turn out well at all. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for listening. And please, please help me find my children. Sainath, Malia, Shivani, Mommy loves you. Mommy misses you. If he's telling you anything else, it's a lie. Mommy has never given up. You know Mommy has not done anything wrong. Those things that they said I've done are lies, and Mommy loves you. And Mommy has not given up. Not one single day have I given up. I'm trying to locate you, trying to talk to you, trying to find you. I want to hug you. I love you. And if anybody gets that message, is watching this, and sees my children, knows my children, please pass this along. Tell them Mama loves them and that she ain't never given up.